All right, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back, Libronauts. I am Elise. Oh no, my dog is going to start jumping on me. My name is Elise, host of Libronauts. We are a science fiction book club that meets to talk about books of many different sci-fi subgenres every month. And today I have with me Elizabeth of Reading Riley. Go ahead and say hi. Tell us about your channel. And you have a book club as well. So go ahead and tell us about that.
Yeah. Hello. My name is Elizabeth. My channel is Reading Riley, and I read mostly horror, thriller, and feminist fiction, but I do have a penchant for sci-fi as well. I love a speculative sci-fi, and I love trying to figure out what makes people tick and why people behave the way they do. And I think that's generally what I'm looking for when I pick up a book, is to try to understand that a little bit better. My book club is the Midnight Society Book Club. And again, we read thriller, horror, and feminist fiction. That is bi-monthly, and you can find information for that on my Instagram at the Midnight Society Book Club. Yeah, that's me. That's it.
I will have Elizabeth's channel linked below, and then I didn't, but I will also link your book club on Instagram. So the book that we read, this was for the month of July, is Glass Houses by Madeline Ashby. As I was reading this, I was like, wow, you were kind of the perfect co-host for this book just because of the content and all the different themes. So that was kind of perfect.
My aesthetic for like the buzzwords that like I look for when I'm, wanting to pick up a new book. Like this fit it to a T. So
that's perfect. All right. So for anyone that has joined us, hello, welcome back. So for anyone who is tuning in, go ahead and let us know if you read the book and what you rated it. And then in the meantime, Elizabeth, if you want to just give a spoiler-free synopsis of the book we read.
Yeah. So Glass Houses. I love the cover, by the way. I think the cover is beautiful. So this is one of those like 5 minutes into the future type books where we're following this group of tech entrepreneurs, tech employees, and they are celebrating the sale of their, oh gosh, how do they describe this? Of their emotion mapping AI technology algorithm type thing. And so they're on this non-piloted plane to some celebratory destination when it fails and they crash on this remote island. And so we have this story that is set in like a near future world, but is also set in isolation. And we're following this woman, Kristen, who has, she's a little bit unique because she's been orphaned. Her parents died when she was a young woman, and she then sued the company that was supposed to it was a house fire, and this tech was supposed to prevent something and it didn't work. And so she sued them and she became infamous. And so now she has this mission in tech to kind of stop the world leaders from like taking it to the using it for the wrong reasons or something. But anyway, it's they get to this island. They think that it is abandoned, but lo and behold, they find this glass house. And as the tagline says, at first it is very hard to get in, and then it is hard to get out. So it's definitely goes in kind of an alternative direction, but keep it non-spoilery. I think that's probably the gist of it.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, this is a tiny book. I don't know if you guys can tell, but like this is a smaller size book. It's not super long. It was like just over 250 pages. And it's just, I personally felt that it was a bit fast paced just because, we do go back and forth between present time and the past timeline. And, it's kind of one of those books that the more you read it, all the puzzle pieces are kind of coming together. So yeah, and I agree. The cover was gorgeous. I had such a fun time picking out the colors for my tabs, and I feel like I did like an amazing job, if I do say so myself, on the color coordination.
I started off coordinating my tabs, and then I just picked whichever color. So mine making no sense whatsoever, but it looks like yours. It looks similar.
Yeah. Usually I don't necessarily have like coordination or like categories for each color, but this one I did. I have 5 different ones. So
I'm the opposite.
Oh, really? I've not read the book, scared off, but yeah, I was worried about that because this does.
Goodreads. What is it on Goodreads?
It's like 3.5 or 3.3 or something like that. It's not super high at all. Of course.
It is kind of hard to show up to on Goodreads. Like you have to like put in her full name for it to even pop. It has a 3.28 right now.
Yeah, lower than I thought. Whoopsies. Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know. I almost suspect that a lot of that maybe came from people who, one, this is like not the book for them just in general, like they are not the target audience, but also maybe people who DNF'd it and still rated it because I don't know. I just feel like if you get the whole story, then yeah, you know, I don't know. So kind of a bummer, and I'm sad that it scared you off, but
well, I will say like I'm very conflicted about this one. Like there are parts of this that I really, really liked, but then there are also parts of it that I didn't love.
Okay.
So when we get into it, like we can talk more about that stuff, but like essentially like I felt like some of the things that she did well, she did really well, but then it's almost like she was trying to do too many things. And I felt like there wasn't quite enough nuance in there for it to, or necessarily early on world building. Like I really wanted more early on world building so that I knew what I was getting into, you know? But do you want me to tell you what I rated it, or are we waiting for that?
Let's wait till the very end.
Oh, okay.
So we'll kind of keep it a secret for now. Yeah, I guess I kind of agree with you. I knew I was going to have such a hard time, like on the spot, trying to find what I wanted to find, even though I did color code stuff. But there was a mention of like when they're on the island. Okay, well, first, let me give this disclaimer. We are going to talk about spoilers at this point. So if anyone's watching, they've not read it or they don't want to be spoiled, maybe bow out and come back later. But there's some things that are said there and they're very subtle, but like discussion of kind of something that's happened like with the power grid and other things, just hinting at the world that they live in is maybe a little bit dystopian, but they don't go into too much detail. And I kind of agree with you that like I wish she would have done more in that regard.
Well, okay, so I guess since we're in spoilers, I can say whatever, but so I get why she didn't do that. I get why she kind of held back on the world building, especially when it came to the WUV, because the whole twist is that WUV didn't do what it was supposed to do to begin with. And so, of course, if she goes into details about that, we're going to start asking questions about like how this works and like find that, you know, it actually doesn't work. So I get why she did that. But at the same time, like that was hold on. I don't want to mix this up in my head with Immaculate Conception. I just read Immaculate Conception and I keep comparing them in my head because Immaculate Conception does all of these things. It's very genre bending as well, where it has that sci-fi element and then it has the thriller and the horror, and I don't know if that one has the romance element, but it has the like human connection element. And that one, for some reason, it was just like so nuanced and so like the way it was done, it worked all together. And then the way this one was done, it felt like it was just like reaching too far and not capturing it enough for me. How do I like the whole love stuff with the emotion channel? Like I wanted to know how how does that create a currency? Because they mentioned like that it creates a currency, but then they said it's emotion mapping. So it's like your true emotions, like what, like you can't hide what you actually feel about it because we're getting it from the source type of thing. But I don't understand how that turns into a currency. So as we were like getting into it the whole time, I'm like, well, what does this have to do with anything? Like, what is this, you know? And it just like, and then when people started like getting sucked up into the sand and stuff, I was like, where is this going? Like, what is happening right now? Is this going like interplanetary monster or like what? And it turns out it's just Sumter like pulling a lever and like, you're mine now. Like, but I don't know what I was even going off about now. I've gotten distracted.
Well, it's interesting that you said that about like the currency thing, because what kind of stuck out in my mind was there's this one Black Mirror episode. I think Bryce Dallas Howard is kind of the lead role in that one, but it's like a rating of the person, and that determines like, you know,
social media or something, right?
Yeah. So it's like
I loved that one.
Yeah, it's in a way like a bit of a currency or a social currency, anyways. So it's kind of what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Huh.
I did start, but I have a print copy, which is slow for me. Yeah, and there's no audiobook for this one currently, so.
Yeah, it's tough when there's no audio, but like I was telling you earlier, it's like this did inspire me to like pick up a book and maybe like every month try to read one book physically, because it was nice to just have that like old faithful, you know, when as an audiobook listener, whenever I'm like out and about, I don't ever have like a physical book on me in most cases. And when I come up with like a beautiful photo opportunity this month, since I had been carrying this around with me because I was reading it physically, every time I was like, I'll show you, I'll post the pictures. I was waiting, but I got some really nice ones like on the lake with this, because I just had to take it around with me. And so I was like, ooh, photo opportunities. Instagram.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So Madeline has actually written a lot of other books, which I didn't realize when I picked this. But I'm assuming this is the first time that you've read by her.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Same here.
Has she her other books also like speculative or?
So she's a consulting futurist and novelist based in Toronto, and which, you know, awesome. And this book primarily takes place in Canada. Well, aside from the island, because we're not really sure where that is. But yeah, so she has like a Machine Dynasty series. I guess maybe that's the only, and I'm not sure how many books are in that series, but yes, very much like sci-fi is her world, like sci-fi. So yeah.
You know, it's really interesting because I like, one thing I did take out of this is that I would read romance from this author, and I don't read romance like that. But like the scenes that were like romantic in this, she had me hooked in those scenes. And I was like, I'll like, give me just a romance book from this author and I'm gonna be real happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely something I noted, but so I feel bad now, but that she's like this like distinguished sci-fi person. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend her, but yeah, that's just my opinion, I guess.
So obviously, this is a sci-fi. There's a lot of different things that are kind of talked about within the sci-fi realm. So I just wanted to kind of pick your brain. Like I said before, I feel like a lot of the sci-fi was just so subtle, but there's a lot of it. So it feels very sci-fi, but like all the individual things, to me anyways, compared to other books that I've read, it did seem so subtle. So what were some of the sci-fi elements that you picked up on?
Yeah, so this isn't one of those that's like in your face sci-fi, I guess, but it is one of those like speculative fiction thrillers where it's, you know, set like 5 minutes in the future. You don't know exactly how far into the future, although maybe you do in this. Did they mention the I think they did at one point. It was like 2040 something maybe, but I could just be making that up.
I don't remember.
But yeah, it's one of those like where, you know, you're slightly into the future, you're seeing where technology could possibly go. And tech is like an AI. I love exploring that within sci-fi and horror for that matter. But it's especially relevant because obviously like in our day and time, like our technology is advancing to a terrifying degree at some points, you know, regarding some things. But this is definitely hits the nail on the head for one of those. But it's also doing something different though, because it's got this isolated location on the island, and so in that sense, it's giving thriller. But yeah, so we have like the things about the love in general, the emotion mapping, but then also some other elements in there are like the way they get in and out of the house. Like the house itself is very futuristic. There's no handles on anything. And they find that you have to be with a certain, what is it? They have to, like the woman has to be with a man for the doors to open, the front door, and then the cupboards only men can open.
Yep.
Something like that. What was then they have the non-piloted plane, which is like this, and they're like, how did it fail? Someone hacked it. I don't know. What else? What other elements? Phil, what are you thinking? What am I missing?
So my light blue tabs were the sci-fi. So there's things like in the beginning, they talk about heart eyes contacts, and like they can use them at passport control, log themselves into their flights, things like that.
Yes, that was brought up a few times. And I think that was integrated with WOV as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and like how it kind of picked up on, you know, little twitches in the face and, you know, things like that, the movement of the eyes.
When Kristen was doing that talk and she turned it on so she could gauge like how she was affecting the emotions of the people in the audience. That was cool.
Yeah. Yep. What are some other things? Well, this is kind of cool. So this is more along the lines of like dystopian, but who is she talking to? Is she talking to Qureshi? I'm not sure, but Kristen's talking to somebody, and the guy is saying that the whole planet should be on one currency. And so they're talking about like a universal basic currency movement, and how like that's why he was kind of in alignment with Sumter, is because that was something that he was big on before he kind of transitioned to the whole love.
I think just trying to like basically find a new currency that's not money, right? That is like digital. That's maybe not like Bitcoin, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something that you could generate yourself. If you could generate a currency, I mean, that really would change everything.
Yeah.
That would change like who's rich and who's poor. You know, like based on who's more in tune with their like emotional like side, or like how, I don't know. Maybe that's not what she's saying at all. And I'm just speculating, but that is kind of interesting to think about.
Another thing was Kristen's whole backstory. You know, she got really severely burned in that fire, and her entire recovery and like the gene splicing that took place.
That's right.
Yeah. And she even talks about at one point how because of all the gene splicing, she was on a cross-border list as a possible data mule. So like she was kind of a red flag for traveling. And so she had to kind of take extra steps to be allowed.
Because she had like stranger DNA in her, or like non-human DNA, I guess. Yeah. And also Sumter, he had said, like, I really thought they were going to say something about the fact that like Sumter wasn't actually orphaned, and he's like took his dad's identity or something, because they talked a lot about him getting confused with his dad's genetic stuff and like in airports and things like that. And I was like, I thought they were going to go somewhere with that, but it didn't. That might have been a red heron, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of forgot about that, but yeah, that would have been a kind of a cool outcome. What else? Let's see. There's definitely more, and of course, I'm just not finding it. Oh, when Kristen and Anton are like laying in bed and he needs to check his phone and he tells her to roll over, I'm like, where is he going with this? Because he wanted to use her back as his screen. So he was able to like superimpose it onto her back and then like swipe and everything. I thought that was kind of
that part. Interesting.
because he said something about, because she's like, there's a whole ceiling above you. You know that, right? And he's like, but this is my favorite backdrop for checking this.
That's Kristen and Anton. I liked their relationship.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
But,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you want to talk about the twist that Kristen is just a killer?
Sure.
Because I don't know how to feel about that. Like, obviously, good for her, you know, like.
Yep, exactly.
But, like, I don't understand why that was the twist. Like, and I guess she's not, is she killing for fun or is she killing for like vengeance? I guess is what I don't really understand.
So the way that I saw it at first, when it kind of first started coming out that she'd killed people, and I'm like, oh no, like, is she the bad guy? Like, I didn't like that. But as the story went on, it definitely did sound more along the lines of she had a purpose behind it. So like when it came out that she was the one that like started the fire that killed her parents, but then it ended up coming out her mom wasn't supposed to be home. She was only trying to kill her dad, and then she and her mom could escape because he was not a good guy. And then like Nadine's husband, that whole thing, and just like all the different instances, we kind of ended up finding out that it was exactly what you said. It was like a good for her moment where this man did somebody wrong, usually a woman, and she was, you know, getting revenge on them.
So I didn't like, okay, so I saw like where they mentioned, who mentions it? Like, I think it's Anton is like confronting her and he's like, I know about, or maybe it's Sumter, I don't know. He's like, I know about the, you know, your college professor and this person and this person and this person. But it didn't really go into detail. So I didn't really get that I kind of got the sense that she just needed to kill for some reason. And that was a little bit, felt tonally different than the rest of the book.
Yeah.
And then very end, also, when she and, who is it? She and Anton, and he's like, oh, I want you to go to with me to my father's wedding. And she says, I need you to be a date for my father's wedding. He's getting married again. That poor girl. Anton smiles. I was thinking you might bring your diverse skill set to the challenge of developing some creative solutions for her. Her lips opened. I have some ideas.
Yeah.
Is he talking about killing his own father right now? Is that what he's talking about?
Maybe. I didn't necessarily take it that way. I definitely, because he kind of mentioned that his dad liked to date younger women.
Yeah.
And then
nonchalant to be like, oh, maybe we'll find some creative solutions. You can do your thing with my father's new bride, and help her out.
Maybe. I mean, Anton didn't have a good relationship with his parents at all. Like that's why his grandfather raised him. So maybe he does want her to kill him.
I guess, yeah. Just interesting way to like end like that. She's making a point to end it on that note, you know, and to make you wonder, if nothing else, make you wonder.
Yeah.
I guess tonally it feels just a little bit like not the same as the rest of the book, because I am fighting for Kristen. I was fighting for Kristen this whole time. I loved Kristen as a character, and I loved her feminism, but not just like not that this author wrote her as like a way to say like, oh, feminist, but it's like truthful writing about how women experience the world, and especially in the tech space, how that is so even like heightened. And my husband's in tech, and I've heard some stories. but yeah, I think it's very much still like that in tech. So I have mad respect for any women in the tech space for sure.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? I don't know. I just like that came out of like left field for me with her just like and not understanding what her motives are for killing.
Yeah.
Or I guess
Well,
that like super verified.
with her, that professor, because remember he had a habit of like taking his students under his wing, and like, because remember she was crying.
I don't remember that part.
She was crying outside of his office or something, and so he's like, I have this extra room, like come stay with me. But then she, after she was there, I don't know how long she was there, it got to the point where she couldn't leave the room unless she stripped naked, and like the camera registered her. So he was predatory, and that's why
I totally missed that part. Okay, that makes more sense then.
Yeah. And then like with Nadine's husband, like he kind of did the same thing in trying to keep her from leaving the house until she like did a stupid dance or something like that, because he was just trying to have control over her.
That's right.
Yeah. So I do think it was driven mostly by wanting to take revenge on men who have wronged women, or who have been predators, who have preyed upon women, or tried to, embarrass them, or, hurt them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, I loved Kristen. Like I said, there was until I got the full picture and was like, okay, this is for revenge. Because there was a moment where I'm like, oh, why? Okay, so you're just crazy. But I think the full circle moment, I was like, okay, yes, I love Kristen. She's badass. She's a girl's girl. So yeah, she was amazing in my eyes.
She's trying to get justice.
Yes, exactly. So what were there's like a lot of overarching themes in this book. So what were some other ones that you kind of picked up on? I mean, you did kind of mention like feminism. That was kind of pretty major. What were some others?
I guess just like this, almost like this warning, this like harbinger of warning of like, don't let the tech get ahead of you. It's like if you're not careful, and it's kind of like a harbinger. Yeah. So it's like, if you're not careful, this could happen. I think a lot of these stories that revolve around this, like, just slightly into the future type of thrillers, they all, that's why they're interesting. That's why they're scary. It's because it could happen. Like, we're not that far away from it. So like things like this could happen. So I think part of it is that. What else do you think?
Well, the gender bias in tech, which you kind of touched on, that was huge. Just the power, especially men having power over women. And then also like psychology. And I feel like that comes into play a lot, especially with Kristen and like her role in that company, being the chief emotional officer, or whatever her title was. Like, to me, that kind of seemed very heavily rooted in the psychology of people, but then also just like the mental status of people and how they were affected. Like the whole story with Sheila, and how, we thought that because she was kind of the creator of the algorithm for WoW, and WoW doesn't work. So she ended up harming herself, unaliving herself. And then it actually comes out that Sumter was the one that did that. And he framed it that way. So yeah, like definitely men having power over women, the gender bias, specifically in tech, surveillance, things like that.
Oh yeah. So I mentioned that my husband is a tech, and like when they mention in the book the booth bunnies, like that's a thing.
Really?
They send their like best looking women to the booths to draw people in. And I mean, technically it makes sense because like you're in marketing still, but like I feel like it's icky. It's icky for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like you kind of have to be hardcore if you're going to be in tech as a female. You kind of have to be a lot. Otherwise, you're going to get walked all over.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kristen does talk about towards the end of the book, like things that she has had to deal with or she's had to prepare herself for that her male counterparts don't, like the self-defense. And she started listing off like, when they do this, you need to counter with this. And when they do this, you need to counter with this, like to try to get yourself out of those situations. And how Sumter didn't see it coming because why would he? He's never had to protect himself against somebody. And then she said something kind of towards the beginning of the book. Oh, wow, I just flipped right to it. Female intuition, otherwise known as the accumulated wisdom of a lifetime spent watching your back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I mean about like, you get this more often from female authors, I feel like, where some men do it, but not a lot. And that's why I tend to prefer female authors because they're not, it's not that she's like out here protesting and doing whatever, but she's just being truthful about the way women experience the world.
Yep.
And like to be feminist should just be, it shouldn't be a dirty word. Like it just means like everyone's equal, not even just women, but anyone who's different, anyone who's diverse. And like the way she writes clearly, like we're living in that space. And so I felt safe and comfortable in that space with her for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And then she even said something, or she had Sheila say something, the disagreement between Sheila and Sumter about the WUV technology was it would enable people to be able to learn and know without a doubt what people were thinking. So there would be no secrets. And so Sheila brought up, she's like, what about queer people who are in a country or any location where that's illegal? Like that would out them and they could be killed. They could be imprisoned.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So what are some real life examples of gender bias in the tech industry? The booth bunnies, I didn't pick up on that in the book, but like as soon as you said it, like an image popped into my head of like exactly what that is. That is tricky.
That's definitely for real. Like that's a thing. So I don't know if I guess she works in science field or sci-fi. And so I bet she is in a male dominated field as well, or she clearly is if she's writing sci-fi as a woman in general.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, that having them based in tech was potentially a way for her to talk about that for sure. Gender bias in the tech industry or in general. I mean, in general, it's everywhere you see it. But in the tech industry, obviously, they're manipulating these men because they know that it is mostly men. And they're using the women to lure them in. But I wonder how many of these women could actually like talk them under the table about the tech stuff. I would love that. I would love to see that. Just like some beautiful woman getting hit on by some like nasty tech nerd. And then they actually get in a conversation about real life, like what they're doing. And she just like way more than him. I would love to see that.
Yes.
I wonder how many women are just in it, not to like judge them at all, but like to take advantage of that and use that to their advantage. Not that that's like women do it where sex work has been happening for ages and ages. This is not sex. Oh my gosh, stop talking, Elizabeth. But I don't know. It's an interesting cultural microcosm. Let's just say that before I get carried away. I'm turning red now. stop. I don't know when to stop.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like other example, like, okay, one thing that has always pissed me off are seatbelts because I feel like they were not designed for women.
Oh,
You know
because
what
they're
I
like
mean?
higher up.
Well, it's like I put the seatbelt on and I try to position it like this. It always inevitably slides up here. I'm like, this is gonna decapitate me if I
Oh,
get into an accident. It's like it doesn't properly accommodate
yeah.
for female anatomy.
Hmm. They're not. They're tested on all, like most everything is tested on men.
Yep.
Even like medicine
Mhm.
and drugs are tested on men. So like they are the accepted norm,
Yep.
like from which we break off. So
Mhm.
that's just patriarchy in general. We're living life through a male dominated lens. That's just how it is.
Yep. And then towards the end, when Sumter is like they're in the basement and he's like sliding people into those bags, he even says something about how the bags were not designed to fit women's sizes.
Oh, you're right. He did. Yeah. When they were going to send him to Mars or something.
I know. By the way, when he said Mars, I cackled out loud. I was like, are you like be so for real right now, Mars?
I believed it. I believe Sumter would have a backup plan to get to Mars.
Yeah, like it was so fitting for his character, but at the same time, like so completely outrageous. Like I love that that's kind of where it went, but well, I mean, it didn't actually get to Mars, spoiler alert, but it's just, I don't know, that was hilarious to me. So speaking of the gender bias, specifically in tech, where do we think that stems from? Is it just flawed programming, flawed programmers, which are probably mostly men, or at least men taking credit for it? Oh, that's the other thing about gender bias in tech is like societally, when we think of different, like, okay, you see this on like TikTok or Reels or whatever, when women are talking about how life would be so much better if all the men just disappeared. And then you inevitably have men in the comments like, oh, well, what are you going to do without this, that, and the other thing? Like, what have men done? It's like, but what about all these other things? And I'm a victim of this, not knowing specifically like which different technologies were actually started by women.
Hmm.
But I think one is like windshield wipers, but there's a huge list of things that have been created and they were created by women, but it's like being overwritten by this narrative that men
Mm.
have always done this and they've always been the ones to do it and they'll always continue to be the ones to do it. And women are just the helpless gender and we would be lost without men.
Yeah. Well, I think women are absolutely capable.
Mhm.
As far as they're just as capable as understanding tech, I think. But I think the issue, like, obviously stems way back to the days when like women weren't allowed to go to college,
Yep.
and and even before then. But like, so it's a lack of education, it's a lack of women in STEM.
Mhm.
And it's not reinforced in our society for women to be in the sciences. It's not particularly reinforcing at all. In fact, it's like we're saying with women in tech, it's even harder than it is to go in a different, more classically female driven occupation.
Mhm.
Um, so that's where it starts from. I think if we lived in a world where we valued like math and science and on like a like actual like cultural level, not just on like the highest people at Harvard and Princeton or whatever, but like if we valued that, we would reinforce that, especially more so than we do currently in women.
Mhm.
And then so there's fewer to begin with, and then like you said, the ones that are creating the tech now are mostly men, and they are creating it based on themselves,
Mhm.
like anyone would, like, well, I mean, if you're not actively trying not to,
Mhm.
you create based on what you know, and that is yourself. And so a lot of the biases that are a part of those systems are not intentional, but also still still just as, what's the right word? Like, I want to say pervasive, but that's not right. But it's just as like hurtful or harmful, I guess.
Yeah.
As if it were intentional, because anyone, not just women, but in this case women, but anyone, like whoever is, you know, not, like they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, or like anyone who's marginalized in the smaller portion is not going to get as much attention, and that compounds over time and leads us to a place now where we have this tech that is made for men, essentially. Not always, but you know, a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that the programmers are flawed. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's part of the reason, well, in some cases it might be, but I think part of the reason that, like, the like, it just comes back to the patriarchy, because if you're like, this is the society that we're living in, and if we're not actively stopping these systems from being created, then we are feeding into it, and it becomes this self-manifesting deal where it just like continues rolling on like a tumbleweed in the breeze. And it's just life, you know? So it's, I'm not surprised, but that is the state of our country.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. Disappointed, but not surprised.
Yes.
Yeah, and they kind of had some of the characters, and I can't remember who exactly said it, but when they were in the kitchen and they kind of realized, like, oh, only the men can open the cupboards. And one of the guys said, or he started to say something, and one of the girls was like, oh, what, why? Because that's where the woman belongs, is in the kitchen. So it doesn't make sense why they can't open the cupboard. So that, like, yeah.
Even to the fact that we're like, Kristen knew that they weren't going to take that at face value. And so she like set it up for, like, she called whoever else over, Norma May. What was her name?
Nora May, I think. Nora May.
She called her over and was like, hey, try this or whatever. And so that all the men would see it with their own eyes and say, hey, this is my idea. So she's like, that's another part of like being a woman in tech, where I feel like that would be such a skill set. Because me, I'm not patient enough with people to be like, okay, I'm going to teach you a lesson right now. Like, I would just try and do it the way that I thought was right. And when it backfired, I would just get mad. But she's so smart in that regard, where she's like, okay, I'm going to make them think it's their idea. And I'm going to slowly like cue or like give different cues for people so that they see what I'm saying and they don't say, oh, that's a ridiculous idea because she's a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good scene. And then they start exploring, like, oh, is it that they're smaller? Is it that, you know, something else?
The size of a child, maybe it's not registering that they're adults. Like,
yeah,
oh my
like, children, I'm supposed to go in the cupboards. I don't know. But what it comes down to is that that's literally the way that Sumter like set it up, right? So why though? Why in the first place? Why?
So I feel like initially the way that you would probably think is because he's sexist. But he was like in love with Kristen.
Yeah.
So to me, it was more not that he's sexist, but it was kind of a safety net for him because, oh, then she needs me.
Oh,
or
okay.
A woman needs me.
Thing. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's a good point. Because then he has the control over every little thing. But if that's the thing, then he is like, that's scary. That's a scary amount of control. But obviously we know that it should be at this point in his case.
Yeah.
What did you picture Sumter as?
Like, as far as an actor?
Yeah, like in your head.
Oh, well,
yeah.
I immediately started fan casting him as Alexander Skarsgård.
Oh, okay. I don't know why, but I saw him in my head as a light-skinned, bald black man.
Really?
No idea why. And then later on in the book, they start talking about his blonde facial hair, and I'm like, wait, this doesn't match up with my idea of him in my head. I don't know where I got that from. I don't know where at all.
Interesting.
Do you watch the Bachelor or the Bachelor in Paradise.
Mm-mm.
There's one guy I don't even remember his name, so I couldn't tell you even if you did. But I was picturing almost exactly one of the guys on there with like blue eyes, light skin, but a black guy.
Yeah. Was it like his personality just kind of fit the character?
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows why our brain pumps out these things. There must have been something that I read about him that I misinterpreted some way, and then it just stuck that way, and then that was it for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And then Kristen I saw as like, I guess I kind of saw her as like a typical looking blonde, like a Kristen Bell type character. But maybe that's just because her name's Kristen.
She did come to mind, but then I was like, I wanted to picture somebody a little bit younger. So then I kind of transitioned to, I can't remember her name, but I think she was in Gone Girl, like the main character.
The redhead? Amy Adams? Wait, Gone Girl. No. That is oh gosh, I love her. What is her name? She is in Gone Girl.
I can't remember her name.
I see her face in my head so clearly. She's also in that other show that I've been watching recently. Gosh.
Yeah, I feel like she plays like a really
hold on, I'll get it.
Wealthy woman in something I've seen recently.
Rosamund Pike.
Yes. Yes. Yep. But by the end, and I actually made a note down here.
Part well.
What's that?
I feel like she would play that part well. Rosamund.
Yeah. And she's honestly who I pictured majority of the time. But then at the very end, the whole like daddy scene with Sumter and like the aggression and like, I'm just like, yikes. And so I was like, she is actually quite a bit younger than him because he did something like some kind of project on her life when he was. Yeah. So I was like, I think she's supposed to be even younger than him. So ultimately, Mackenzie Davis.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
The only thing that I think I've really seen her in is what is it called? It's a queer holiday movie on Hulu. It came out a few years ago. It's her, Kristen Stewart, and like she takes Kristen Stewart, like they're dating. She takes Kristen Stewart back to her family, but she's not out.
Season.
Yes, thank you. Yep, that's the only thing I can think of her in.
I can see her in that for sure. She's been in a lot. She was also in Station 11.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen that yet.
I haven't either because I need to read the book. And she was in Black Mirror, it says.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, I don't know which episode, but.
Well, that's fitting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah. And then while we're on the topic, and I don't know what he's played in, but I recognized him, Riz Ahmed as Anton. Because I
like R-I-Z-Z?
Just R-I-Z and then A-H-M-E-D. Because when he first came on the scene, I did kind of picture him as like a darker complected guy, like maybe Middle Eastern or Indian thing.
Yeah, this guy could totally play him.
Yeah.
For sure. That's how I pictured him too.
Yeah. He seems like such a softie too. And so, because all the scenes with Kristen, especially at the end when he's like, I love you, like this. Well, I don't think he ever said I love you, but you know, he was like opening up to her and telling her that he had to spy on her because he was forced to, but he's like miserable now because he misses her so much.
Yeah. Like them two together, like I said, that was my favorite part of the book, was the two of them.
Yeah.
Like that was my favorite part. That's why I was like, I need a romance from this author because I really liked them.
Yeah.
I really liked their banter and I liked their softness.
And they seemed immediately to just come together so well.
Yeah, but I'm confused though as to why she like walked into his bedroom like on their first meeting. Obviously it was contrived, right? We find out later it was contrived.
Yeah.
Like she just walked in there and she was like, "Oh, there's a man in here." Or was I wrong about the space? Was it a public space?
I think it was a bedroom because she was talking to Qureshi. And she needed to, I think he basically told her, like, girl, you look a mess. You need to go freshen up, go upstairs. Yeah. And he kind of told her where to go. So she went up there, not realizing that one, it was a bedroom, and two, it was like occupied.
Oh, okay. So she knew when she got in there that, like, oops, someone's in here, but she just stayed.
Well, I don't think she noticed him, because at the end he said something about how he just like watched her walk in and she was like looking at the moon or something. But then Sumter, he was like calling out for her and she panicked. And so he like had her hide under the bed or something like that. And then he just immediately started banging. So yeah. Okay. It's funny. We've been like bouncing around.
I tend to do that. I'll take credit for that. It's my fault.
No, that's fine. It's nicer when conversation can just kind of flow naturally. So no worries. Okay, you kind of touched on this one, on if we think this novel could be a warning about the future of smart homes or just like tech and surveillance in general. And I, like, for me personally, because of the credentials of the author, like here, and there's more too. She's developed science fiction prototypes for Changeist, the Institute for the Future, the Smithsonian Institution, Sci Futures, Nesta, the World Health Organization, the World Bank, the Atlantic Council, like, oh, and she's member of the AI Policy Futures Group at a university. So like her work is very much like sci-fi, not just from a fiction standpoint, but like.
Is that in the back of the book?
Yeah, on the flap.
Reading science fiction prototype. What is it? What is a science fiction prototype as opposed to just a prototype? Like, is it
like from an idea almost, or like
from a book, from a science fiction book that she's making in real life? Is that it?
I don't know, actually. Let's Google it. What is a, oops, not what nos, good Lord. What is a science fiction prototype? Explores ideas for new technology as part of a story and enables them to be tested within a future setting of people and environments as a means to assess, inform, and influence their future development. So, like, fictional tech?
It's literally, like, to help understand the tech through fiction, or like, that's cool. Yeah. But as an answer to your question, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it could serve as a warning.
Yeah. Especially the whole control aspect that we saw, and how he tricked people into coming to this island, crash landing on this island, despite people dying or getting injured. And then just that control of who can get in the house, who can access anything, the elevator, the cupboards, the fridge, any of it.
Yep. That's the scariest part about that, is that aspect of needing control. And when it comes to tech, and like, that's, it's a very specific way to give somebody a lot of control, especially, with tech, you literally own it. So you are in control of it, and how that affects other people is very wide ranging. My home's pretty tech. I mean, it's pretty tech savvy, because like I said, my husband's in tech, so he likes all the little gadgets and stuff, and he wants everything to be connected to the Google and all of the things. Drives me crazy, to be honest, because like in our old house, like I said, we just moved, but in the old house, he would have the light switches connected, and he would say, "Oh, okay, GLE," and then turn on the bedroom lights or whatever, and it would turn it on. But then if you flip the switch, it would disengage the Google Home to connect with it. And sometimes it's just easier to flip a switch than it is to say that, especially if I'm like, it's early in the morning, I'm trying not to wake somebody up, because it'll be like, turning on the bedroom. I was like, sometimes you don't need it. Okay, sometimes it's better to just flip a switch. But I can see where that could go wrong for sure, because it is a lot of like we have everything signed in. Like our oven is connected to our Wi-Fi in case we need
Oh,
to like
wow.
when we're not home or whatever. Like so, if one thing like it's also like if we were to lose one thing, we lose it all. You know.
I was just gonna say, like, if your Wi-Fi goes down, are you just like you can't use anything?
Well, we could still use our oven, obviously. Like we just wouldn't be able to do it remotely. But
Gotcha.
like,
Okay.
if we just in general, if humans lose power, like we're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another side to this, like that's not the control aspect, but like what if something goes wrong and like he's down in that basement and his only way out is that elevator, and if it's not registering like the hand stuff, or if something's like, is he just stuck down there forever?
Maybe. I mean,
Like
he
that?
must have had a lot of people helping him build that thing.
Yeah.
You would think there would be fail safes, especially with someone with his means, but maybe. I mean, they're on an island. It's not like they're going anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
We're already stuck there. But that would be how it's like a island inception. You're like stuck on a deserted island, then you get stuck in the basement of the house on the deserted island. That would be terrible. That would be an awful way to go.
Right. Alrighty. So overall, did you think that this book was believable? And then what worked for you? What didn't?
Okay. Overall, I don't know. The way I interpreted it is it felt a little far-fetched for me. Like I said, the like world building wasn't there to back up some of the things that came into play. And but I really liked the feminist aspect. I liked Kristen as a character. I just wish that there was a little bit more nuance in there. But generally I think it was fun to read. I wish it had an audiobook. But I did have a good time with it overall. I would recommend it. If you're for someone that is like interested in like that kind of futuristic tech, like interested in that, exploring that. I don't think I would say it was believable though. I think it was more entertaining than it was believable.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be interested to know, because like I'm sure some of what's in this book might already exist. It's just not open to the public. So I would just be really curious to know like how much of what we see in this book is something that is already in existence or being worked on, and does it kind of work in similar fashion?
So I would want, and kind of goes the same with the Immaculate Conception that I was talking about, that if we have this kind of technology that can read emotions, or that can, in the case of Immaculate Conception, increase empathy towards other people, why I would think that we would want to use that to communicate. Like instead, like there are so many people who don't understand each other. Like what if like you had people who spoke different languages and then they have this emotion mapping currency or stuff on, and then they can like understand each other through their emotions, like things like that. Like I think that would be a cooler implication. But who's to say like, you know, what would actually happen in real life, you know, or how those would, like what the use case, to use a tech word, maybe that's just a corporate word, the use case would be for this kind of technology.
Yeah.
I got sidetracked again. Sorry.
No, you're good. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. Like maybe some stuff is believable, but maybe I think for the most part, probably not. Again, just my own ignorance as far as how advanced tech really is. But then also too, like the whole island aspect, like, is that possible to have a house that advanced on a deserted island and with all of those like traps set up around the island that he just has to like make a fist motion and it opens up and
times I think it was.
Yeah. Like I don't know. And like his planning to get people to Mars and how he had like viable embryos with him and hooking Mason up in that bag. Like, I don't know. I feel like that process, obviously I've only ever seen in movies, but it required like a full lab and like an entire team of people to monitor, and he's just like poking holes in people. And so
throwing him in a bag.
That
was weird.
Like a vacuum sealed bag.
So it's like, oh, we don't have to breathe, it's fine.
Yeah.
It gets sucked in through something else or something.
And I think I agree with you as well on things that worked. Like, I liked the writing. I liked Kristen a lot as a character. I liked her relationship with Anton. Really the only thing that didn't work for me, and I kind of touched on this earlier, was just I wanted to know more. And I feel like that's something that I find is missing out of a lot of sci-fi, is especially when it's so speculative or so mysterious. It's like, I need to know more. Like, they mentioned something about the power grid failing or just the way that the world is now. Like, I wanted to know more about that. But they did mention stuff that's like going on now. And I think she talked about it in her acknowledgments too. So I guess this is something that like worked for me. But oh shoot, maybe not. But she said something about like the state borders and women trying to cross the borders to seek reproductive care, and how that is still very much a thing. And it's like, because these characters were, or at least Kristen was from Canada, and like the company was in Canada, it was very Canadian based. It was very interesting, kind of their point of view of the United States in whatever year it is that this book takes place.
Yeah.
It's like now, but like worse or more extreme.
Where they're looking at us like, oh, the Americans.
But like, I kind of wanted more of that. You know what I mean? Like, give me all the details. Don't just allude to something. Like, I need a whole page about what you're talking about instead of just a sentence. So,
as a horror reader, I found myself wanting, like, I felt like she was very descriptive about certain things, but then when it came to like the stuff that I wanted the descriptions for, like the tech and like the horror aspects, those were more vague. And so like I wanted the like dirty, gritty stuff too, for sure.
Yep. So, thank you. So did this book end the way that you expected?
How does this end? No, I don't think it did.
No.
Oh yeah, that's right. So no. Because she's gonna kill his father, apparently. So no. But I mean, I guess yes, in the sense that she ends up with Anton and it has that like kind of happy ending that's tied up a little bit. And it does that. Like, I just feel like, again, like tonally, the end is different than the rest of it. Like, it just feels like I feel her neurodivergence really hard. And I say that with love because like I see it in myself. So that's how but like it feels very scattered to me.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because while she didn't say anything necessarily about being neurodivergent, she did talk about PTSD and trauma and how that changes people at like a chemical level in the brain. And that's kind of the whole basis of why WUV would not actually work, because like the neural pathways that are created,
how
it just changes the way that the brain works. So it's like a roundabout way of talking about neurodivergence, hers based off, trauma. But yeah, that's interesting.
That maybe I'm putting my foot in my mouth, but that's the vibe I got from reading this.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. Huh. So yeah, so like for me, I did not expect Kristen and Anton to end up together. I'm glad that they did.
Yeah.
But it's just they kept talking about how, I don't know, to me it felt very you know, bed buddies type thing. I didn't think that it would really go anywhere. But like I said, I was very happy that it did. The whole Kristen being like a good for her type revenge killer, I didn't necessarily see that coming. Again, kind of pleasantly surprised. The thing that I did see coming was Sumter kind of being at the root of everything, because like what was it, like page 18, I think it was. I looked at it just before we. Okay, yeah. So Nora May, they were talking about, joking rather, that, oh, maybe this was on purpose, because Nora May said, remember the time he took us on the tour of the new loft? He locked the door and left us. 4 hours later, he comes back. And then later on in the book, like a few chapters later, in one of the flashbacks, it talked about how Sumter was part of or working on a project or something that had to do with the psychology of people like working together in like an isolated setting, basically. Like something happens and they're stuck together. So like that first thing on page 18, I'm like, okay, so maybe he did this on purpose. And then once I saw the thing about the project that he was working on, I was like, oh, he definitely did this on purpose. It didn't turn out how I expected, though, because I was thinking at the end he'd be like, oh, ha, ha, ha. I just wanted to do an experiment. But no, he's just crazy. He wanted to take everyone to Mars and start a new colony of people.
I think I got rubbed wrong by Sumter at the very beginning when he just kept touching her. And I think that was on purpose by the author. Just like he kept touching her. And it does, now that I'm thinking about it, convey this ownership, or this like want to control her at the very least. Because I specifically noticed that several times at the beginning, where I was like, do I like Sumter or do I don't? Why does he keep touching her? Or do they have a thing? Why is he? And the whole time, like, do they have a thing or do they not? And I think that, of course, she was wanting us to wonder as well. But yeah, he's just creepy. He's creepy. I thought also that this woman's name, Madeline Ashby, I don't know why I was thinking that she took her, like, I was thinking this is a like pen name and she took it from Meryl Streep's character in Death Becomes Her. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
But it's not Madeline Ashby. It's something very close to it. Let me find it. Death Becomes Her. Who is Meryl Streep's character? Madeline Ashton is her name.
Oh, very close.
Right? And I was like, is this like the coolest person I've ever met? So now, I mean, if you see a book come out by Madeline Ashton, it might be me, because I might just take it now, because it hasn't been done apparently. But wouldn't that be the coolest pen name?
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. Am I crazy, or did I hear that they're going to do a remake of that movie?
No, I think I heard something about it too, actually.
Okay.
I don't know though.
I hope they do it justice, because like I love the original so much.
Oh my God, it's a classic. That is amazing. I love it so much. It gets more and more relevant the older I get.
For sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, in regards to like the touching, so you remember the part where Kristen she's talking at the conference and she sees that girl kind of in the front row, and there's that guy sitting on the couch with her, and he's like playing with her hair and like he's like touching himself. That happened to the author. She talks about it in the acknowledgments.
Yes.
On how she was the girl that was being, having her hair fondled and being put in that position to like, what do you do? Like, it's a room full of people. Nobody's doing anything. Yeah.
And those are like, that's the kind of everyday scenario that I was talking about earlier, where it's like, it's not always somebody that is, you know, looking to harm you, but nonetheless, you are being used for nefarious reasons, for sinister reasons, and your body is literally being used. Even if it's just someone touching your hair, like that's not yours to touch, sir. Do not, no, not okay. Don't like that at all.
Yep. I love how Kristen embarrassed the hell out of him.
Yeah. That was really satisfying.
Yes, for sure. Okay, fan cast we already talked about. So aside if, you know, from if she ever writes a romance, would you read any of her other sci-fi?
I think with an audiobook, I would. I probably wouldn't sit down with her book again physically, but with an audiobook, I would give it another shot for sure. Or of course, if she writes a romance, I'm into that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Sci-fi romance? What? Maybe not though. Maybe she should just stick to one genre this time. I don't know. What about you?
I definitely would. Yeah. I'm not like, I don't want to get into any more series. So like, I don't know if I'll check out her series, but like if she comes out with something else, and this isn't that old, it came out last year, like last April or August or something like that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. 2024. But yeah, totally. Like if she comes out with something else, especially if it's sci-fi, like I am 100% checking that out.
Thanks.
So what other books, movies, shows, games, anything like that would you recommend, or I guess came to mind even while you were reading this?
Yeah, I kept thinking of, while I was reading this, I kept thinking of John Mars. So I think if you like something like this, you would probably like a John Mars. Have you read John Mars?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I'm like, you have a sci-fi book club. But one of my favorite of his, like the one is the most popular, which is like about this, you know, futuristic dating app where they find your soulmate. But my favorite of his is The Passengers. And that one's also like a 5 minutes into the future where we have these people that are stuck in self-driving cars, and it's like a whole bunch, I think it's 8 different people, and the cars have been hacked and they are headed towards each other and destined to crash into each other if they don't confess their sins to the world, and are hooked up on live television at the same time. So it's kind of like I want to say Saw, but I don't think that's right actually. But anyway, that's my favorite John Mars. And also, like I said, Immaculate Conception. I just keep coming back to this one because of the like futuristic. I gave this one 5 stars, and it was like blew my mind. But it's also surrounding someone in like the art world where they have this technology that is purported to help someone understand empathy, and we have this like toxic relationship between these 2 friends throughout their like entire lifetimes, and it's masterful. Yeah. But like you mentioned Black Mirror earlier. I think that's another obvious for a TV show. That'd be another good recommendation too.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think of John Mars, but yeah, totally. That would be a good like book recommendation. Any of his sci-fi. I'm not a fan of his thrillers.
But I prefer sci-fi too.
Yeah. And I've only read the one, The Marriage Act and The Family Experiment. So I haven't read. What's that?
You need to read The Passengers. You'll love it.
Yeah, I have it. I've not read that one or The Minders yet. And aren't they all like part of the same?
I don't know if they all are, but definitely some of them are. Like there are some things in some of them that like spoil the other ones because they're set in like the same world as like the one. I think The Marriage Act is set in the same world as the one, and maybe The Passengers is in the same world too. I'm not sure.
I know one of them is. I can't remember which one, if it was The Marriage Act or The Family Experiment, but it mentioned one of the characters was somebody that was part of that thing that happened in The Passengers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or was involved in it somehow. I can't remember.
Oh, it's been a while. I don't know either. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I had a hard time, like, I guess coming up with ideas. Like, I guess one that comes to mind for a book would be The Power by Naomi Alderman.
Oh, that's a good one.
Just because of the whole feminist Yeah, the whole feminist take on it. Although that one kind of goes above and beyond, and like women are the more powerful gender, and I would have liked to see that here, but the good for her aspect. And so I guess speaking of that, like any good for her thriller, like the Lane Fargo, They Never Learn. Like, if you like the good for her part of this book, like definitely read that. But definitely Lost, like specifically season 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that just the island, before we know that the thing that's like consuming them in the sand is just like a trap. Like the way it's presented before, it's almost like it's some kind of mysterious monster that's just eating, and
that's
made
what
me think
I
of
thought it
that
was, like some kind of like Dune scenario where it's like a sandworm.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. So, oh no, that still says the water knife. Sorry, guys. Obviously, I recycle my questions.
I do too.
That was last month's read. Okay, so final thoughts, and what did you rate this?
Final thoughts. I would recommend this. It's not my favorite as a whole, but there were pieces of it that I really, really did enjoy. I think as far as like getting along with the main character, this is a good one for that. But I probably, like, unless they have an audio, like I said, I probably won't pick up another physical read of hers unless she has a romance, because I definitely was interested in the way she wrote Anton and Kristen together. But overall, I give this one 3 stars.
Okay.
What did you give it?
I, for the most part, or like for majority of the book, I was like, okay, this is like 3.5. I like it. But the ending, I kind of loved. I loved how it turned out.
Oh, okay.
So I bumped it up to a 4. So yeah, this one is 4 stars for me. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I heard about this one like when it first came out, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. So when I was trying to select books for the club, you know, I want to pick stuff that's like well known, but also ones that aren't. So I am kind of bummed, like, because it wasn't very well known, and because the Goodreads ratings are pretty low, like not many people read it, which is a bummer. But yeah, I mean, I had a great time, especially for a book to be like, to not have an audio. I have to read it physically. I need to like it, because if I have to sit there and read it with my eyeballs and I'm not enjoying it, like, it is so painful. So that was a huge indicator to me, because I wanted to pick it back up, and when I was reading it, like, I was just like reading it, like I didn't necessarily want to put it down. So so yeah, definitely 4 stars.
Nice.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for co-hosting with me this month. This is, I think, our 3rd time, because I've been your co-host twice.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I was able to finally have you.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, this was like, I loved how perfect it was. Just like what you like to read and the themes that you like. Yeah, this was perfect. So
I love that you have like this book club that's like for science fiction books in general. Like, you don't see a lot of those. So thank you for like making space for that, because I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, it's definitely something like I just wanted to be a part of, just because you're right. Like, I don't see that around. I mean, now that Fable is in existence, I mean, you can find a lot there. But as far as, you know, people who have like a book discussion every month, like, yeah, it's mostly like thrillers or fantasy or romance. So yeah. Alrighty. Well, the August book is going to be The Martian by Andy Weir. And my co-host for this is going to be Yvette. The live show is going to be August 27th. Note the time. It's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern this time. I believe Yvette is like 3 hours behind me. So 7 p.m. would have been a little too early for her. So yeah, so thank you for those that popped in. Thank you for those that are watching this later. I appreciate you guys. Be sure to check the links in the description. Follow Elizabeth if you don't already do so. And be sure to follow Libronauts on Instagram and Fable. We're kind of over there full time now. So yeah, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful evening and we will talk to you next time. Bye.